Hi, my name is Rickie Bradshaw. I'm with Union Baptist Association in Houston, Texas, and I'll be sharing with you in the National Outreach Convention in San Diego, November 2009. I've been asked to share the subject matter of outreach, and I've chosen the subject of churches that transform their world. I believe it is God's bailout plan for His church, and I think it's a bailout plan, if you will, in these critical days in our country, in our communities, and in our cities. Churches that transform their world. I want to ask you a question. If your church was to cease to exist, would your community ever notice, or would they not notice at all, that you were missing in action? Would they want to know what happened to that church which reduced crime in the community, that mentored their children in alternative learning centers for delinquent students, provided free medical missions, and maybe free sports clinics and sports league for their children and youth, or maybe even let them use the facility to host community events? You see, a church that does such things is called a community transformation church. These churches organize with the intent of going around doing good. I wonder if you ever heard that in Acts chapter 10, verse 38, that Jesus Christ went around doing good. You see, these churches, they impact the community, and they invite the community to participate in going around doing good with them. And they help them to discover a relationship with Jesus Christ while on mission. I believe this is what Jesus Christ did with His disciples. If you remember Peter, James, and John, and Andrew, Jesus asked them to come and follow Him, and He will make them to become disciples. In other words, fishers of men. Men who would transform their world. And the world for these four men was the fishing industry of Capernaum, if you will, the Sea of Galilee. And I believe Jesus allowed them to walk with Him to transform that world around them. And my, did they transform Galilee. Like never before, we saw the fishing industry in the Bible being impacted by those four men. Well, I believe that is what community transformation is all about. It is going around doing good. Yeah, it's getting people to heaven, but it's bringing heaven to earth. Well, every aspect of life and every domain of life is impacted by the presence of the living God. I don't know about you, but I think our country, our cities, and our community needs this kind of bailout plan, where God touches earth with His power through His people. Well, these kinds of churches have a different process for discipleship. They also have a different process for leadership. In fact, one of the characteristics of Community Transformation Church is that they make disciples into agents of transformation by making friends. They seem to raise the bar on discipleship to more than a learning episode on a Wednesday night Bible study or a Sunday morning huddle. And that's not all bad, but the process of discipleship for a transformational community transformation church is kept so simple so that simple and ordinary followers can reproduce new followers through authentic relationships. To enhance this, they use an organic structure. To quote a famous organic milk product, they keep it simple and pure. This equals organic. Or they use the formula S plus P equals O. In their leadership structures, the church leaders of community transformation movements, they practice transformational leadership rather than transactional leadership. You see, transactional leadership is merely rewards workers for doing their jobs, and work is seen as a transaction. Salary, security, and benefits are received in return for a certain agreed upon output. Transformational leaders, not quite the same as transactional. These kinds of leaders, transformational leaders, they attempt to address the call for the total revitalization and transformation of thinking and behavior of the follower, of course with the help of the Holy Transformer Himself. They practice, three fundamental commitments, these transformational leaders. They practice personal transformation. This is the commitment to practice spiritual disciplines. It is that they practice prayer and fasting and living a life of simplicity. the life of abandonment and desperation, are crying out to God to transform them inside out. And they also make a commitment to practice relational transformation. This is the commitment of reconciling relationships. They go around seeking to be ambassadors to their world, reconciling heaven to earth and earth to heaven, and even reconciling life around them. They also practice the commitment of community transformation. This is a commitment to reconcile the community. You see, I thoroughly believe that Jesus Christ left us on the earth after, calling us to salvation so that we can go around doing good with the purpose of being ambassadors, ministers, missionaries to our communities. You see, these kinds of churches, community transformation churches, they raise up missionaries to the city versus church members for the ministry. Nothing wrong with that, but those are two different practices. They resurrect monuments for those church members to build up ministry. But these kinds of ministry, they seem to resurrect movements. They multiply disciples and not programs. They seek to attract the presence of God in community by practicing spiritual disciplines. They ask not what their church can do for them, but what they can do for their communities of influence. That's a pretty good bailout plan, if you ask me. Well, I hope to see you at the National Outreach Convention in November 2009. And I hope you come by and let's chat together about churches that transform their world. And believe me, there are many congregations globally that are transforming the world around them. And through our research and also our practice, we'll be able to share our learning and our observance with you. We look forward to seeing you there. You have a blessed day. See you later. Bye-bye.